Welcome back to part 2 of A Guide to the Elementals. If you haven't seen part 1, A Guide to the Elementals video, I recommend you watch that first. If you have watched part 1, we can see from the excerpt from chapter 1, A Guide to the Elementals. Andre really sets the scene and understanding the nature of how these beings communicate and what we need to do to prepare ourselves for these interactions. He also discusses methods of mental wandering and the use of Akashic trance. As you can see, he offers solid foundational knowledge. Now, I would like to focus on Andre's Consciencia's course on elemental magic, as taught by the Elementals. Swing available at perseusarcaneacademy.com. See link in the comments below. What is unique and fascinating about this course, it was directly constructed from his dialogue with the Elementals, so it is tailor-made for a magician specifically to aid them in communication, rather than the other way around. Andre discusses it in a number of questions put to him about how he does this. I would like to focus on contacting the Earth Elemental, the gnomes, since they are closest to our own elemental makeup and appear to be the friendliest. The following questions regarding this course were put to Andre, and here are his responses. The first question is as follows. How did you begin to form this course and how long did it take you? Was it something the Elementals asked you to create? Andre's response was, it took about 2 weeks. The proposition came from, I would be using some of what I had already learned from the Elementals during the many years of our contact, and consult them anew only when needed. What is available at the time of this interview is just the first level, and the structure of the whole course for the Earth element is more or less defined and public. It will be shifting according to how students advance, and it will be built according to how students progress. Keep in mind this is an ongoing course that will be building for years, much like my course Magic and Mystical Introspection. The first level was easy to put out because I had released some of its contents in my board game, The Gem of Silence, which is a game you play through real magical practice and initiation into the mysteries of nature. The game introduces players to the basics of the element Earth, is being discontinued and found a new incarnation on the first stage of this course. No, the Elementals did not directly ask me to create this course. I was inspired by divine providence to write my book A Guide to the Elementals, and asked the Elementals, so it was more the other way around. The course provides a different and more intimate pathway, but the mission is the same. The second question, I wonder if you could tell us about this course and why would people have more success studying with you than on their own? Andre replies, I often get asked this question with other materials, as if my courses are meant to discourage solo work. All real magical work is solo, and that's final. On the other hand, no studying whatsoever takes place alone. The next question, if someone who was not from the Barden tradition would like to do this course, but comes from a tradition of Golden Dawn or OTO, how would you recommend they proceed? Andre states, this is not particularly a Barden's course. Barden's teachings are in his books. Someone coming from the Golden Dawn should proceed as someone coming from Franz Barden or any other student by following the instructions on the course. If someone is coming from the OTO, that student will likely have no real magical experience, yet will still proceed like the others. You do not need magical experience. You are here to gather the experience. Another question put to Andre, how do you begin to introduce, say, Gob, the elemental being of the Earth realm, for an example to the practitioner? He replies, Gob is not just a regular elemental, he is supposed to be the emperor of the whole elemental kingdom. I would likely not start by introducing Gob. In A Guide to the Elementals, I use a secret method that is quabbalistic, and although this is hidden from the reader, it makes the process safe and natural, but also momentary. In the course, I am not acting from above to below, like I am in the book. I'm acting from below, from the student perceiving as a basic elemental, and growing up in complexity and capacity. So Gob would be near to a final goal. In other words, the student would first have to learn how to perceive, understand, and manipulate the element from inside and outside. How to perceive and understand an earth sprite from inside and outside, and rise higher in ranking until the student can, in consciousness, harbour whole gnome kingdoms and elemental kings and queens, which includes, on the material sense, large geographical areas. To understand Gob, one must understand the material solid planet, from surface to bottom, but also how this can all manifest as a single sprite. Many so-called magicians can't even transfer their consciousness into a pebble. It is necessary to lose human perception, or all perception of human limitations. It all takes solid training. Moving on to the next question, what results would one expect to have in the beginning? How long does it take to have a clear dialogue with Gob? Andre's answer, in the beginning, one should expect to start to learn the basics of how an elemental perceives the world, which can be very different from how the human being today perceives. In a way, it is not even the same world. In the later stages, objectively, one should expect to perceive and operate like a competent elemental, no matter what elemental kingdom. Subjectively, there is no reason to set a limit to it, or to imagine this course will end any time soon. A student can eventually surpass the teacher, even while the teacher keeps learning new things. Regarding dialogue with Gob, here is a concept not usually grasped. In terms of communication, the evolution of a being is indicated by the being's language, and we mean language in its metaphysical and broadest sense. It is more or less easy to enter a dialogue with Gob in our usual language, but we will not be learning much except variations of what we already know. For a solid dialogue, we need to learn Gob's language, which is the same as learning the most sophisticated and primal organs of perception and expression that ever existed and developed in the kingdom under the earth. Magical language is the language of becoming, of being, and that is part of why we call them elementals and planetary spirits, beings. The next question, I wonder if you could discuss the course format and why the elementals wanted to use it in this way. Andre, although I have previously stated how things happened on my end, it is now time to tell that sprites don't usually operate in any form of linear fashion. Having this in mind, for instance, when, for a guide to the elementals, I visited a certain gnome I had dealt with before he had made a salt doll of myself, from which he stated he had called me into accepting this work. More likely than not, it was the gnome who was influenced by my spirit's will or plus pole to help influence my minus pole into action. My mission with the books doesn't usually end in the books, it folds. There are always at least two ways to go about things, and while the books follow one way, the courses follow the other. Combined, they make systems that are complete into a system that overflows with abundance and leads beyond complete, beyond expectation. This particular course has an ongoing formation process, and its format is organic and dynamic, adapting to the work with the students. In this sense, not only will the students benefit greatly from contact with me, as this course itself will benefit from their contact. A question regarding evocation. When someone does their first evocation, do you walk with them, Andre? I hope not. I help people by teaching them how to fish, not by fishing for them. This being said, I will be watching them fish and help out. Another question, how can someone tell if they are truly speaking to an elemental or generating it through their imagination? Andre, this is another question that keeps being asked throughout the years. I do not fully agree with the proposition implied. It suggests any kind of communication can occur outside imagination, when communication depends on the symbolic mind, which can only be articulated and given meaning via imagination. This is true of physical communication between two material persons speaking, and it is even more so when communicating with the invisible planes. Magic can only occur via imagination. You must generate via imagination the state, and involucre with which you will be able to understand the elemental, but also you will have to generate the means for the elemental to come and manifest in tangible manner. On the other side, the elemental will be doing the same. Now, sometimes we generate the substance and speak with the substance alone, and at other times you generate the substance and succeed in getting it inhabited by a being that has long existed beyond that particular substance. There are ways to know this that depend on the intensity of the being, its capacity for independent thought, and information given and validated that you couldn't have possibly imagined, etc. But a really strong magician or medium can generate an elementary that causes poltergeists, that can feed on information from the Akasha, that is clairvoyant, that can submit elementals and spiritual beings, etc. So the best method I know is for one to evoke their own subconscious into form and communicate with it to the extension that the subconscious can no longer trick you and swears beyond any doubt a magical oath of truth, loyalty, and obedience. This is a highly personal process and should be performed as well before knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel in other systems. I think our readers will find this answer very interesting. If anyone has any comments or questions, do post them, and we will do our best to answer them. Moving on to the next question, what would say is the most important quality the practitioner should master besides magical equilibrium before embarking on this journey? Andre, consciousness transference and manipulation. The last question, is there anything else you would like to add? Andre, if you want to join this work, it is better to let go of preconceptions. For a magician that is active, magic is perpetual discovery, and being a magician means choosing to be active. The passive side of this coin is exercising wisdom, not dogma. The sprites are very much alive and will shy away from a dead mind. I hope this video aids anyone who is considering contacting the elementals, and I wish you well on your journey. If there are any questions, do add them in the comments section below. If you wish to study with Andre, you can find his course, Elemental Magic, as taught by the elementals, on PerseusArcaneAcademy.com. Andre's title, A Guide to the Elementals, is available at FalconBooksPublishing.com. Thank you, Andre.